Hello, my name is Dr Lauren Rooney and I'm a clinical psychologist. I work full-time in the NHS and I also work in private practice, and I'm the resident psychologist for the Fierce Fantastic Females group. I try to support people within the group to access any kind of self-help or free therapy that they can have. I'm happy to signpost people to any resources they might need, and also to talk on these videos about topics that people are interested in. So I've done videos before about things like bereavement, how to get support from the NHS, how to manage anxiety, about trauma, all sorts of different topics. So if there's anything you'd like me to talk about, then do let me know and I'd be happy to make a video. And hopefully one day when we can meet face to face, I can do a group that we can all ask questions and talk in. So today I was thinking about what's the most important issue for us right now. So we've been in lockdown for 12 weeks now. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. Everything is really unknown and uncertainty is really difficult for us as human beings. We don't deal well with uncertainty, and almost every type of anxiety is due to uncertainty. So if you're uncertain about germs, you're going to wash your hands more, you might develop OCD. If you're uncertain about the future and it feels really scary, we can develop generalised anxiety disorders. We don't deal well with uncertainty. And so I thought today what might be useful is thinking about uncertainty and anxiety caused by coronavirus, by this global pandemic, and also ways that we can cope with it, because for many of us, me included, a lot of our usual coping techniques, such as going out, seeing friends, we can't do, and so we're feeling all quite stuck. So first of all, I'll put the link in the description below. I'd like to introduce you to this paper here. Now this is a workbook by a team called Psychology Tools, who are fantastic, and it's called Living with Worry and Anxiety Amidst Global Uncertainty. Now I'm going to talk us through this workbook today because I've been using it in my clinical work with my patients and I've been finding it really, really useful. It's a great guide to help us to stay grounded, to help us to manage with that struggle with what's going on. It's got some really practical to-dos and it's got a list of ideas for if you ever get stuck with how to cope. So I'll talk us through this because I think it's fantastic. So within this guide, it takes us through, first of all, what we call a bit of psychoeducation. So that's trying to teach ourselves why we're feeling this way and try and pull it all together. Because I know that sometimes when we feel that there is anxiety and I'm feeling upset and I'm feeling depressed and I'm feeling panicky and all of these feelings all at once, we can start to feel like we're going crazy. There's too much. Why is my brain doing this to me? And so it's really helpful if we can try and pull it all together and work out that usually most of our problems are due to the same thing. It all boils down to one core problem that we can help tackle. So it talks a lot at the beginning about what is worry, and it talks a little bit about worry being a bit of a chain. And so this is the idea that when we have something little, a little worry, we start to add to it. So it's like a chain that we add more and more and more links. So it says here, I have a headache, and naturally that'll lead us to go, what other kind of symptoms have I got? Are they coronavirus symptoms? And then we start to think, what about all the people that I passed in the shops yesterday? What about if I passed it on to my family? What about if I passed it on to X, Y, Z? And we start to think about all the people that we might have met. And then we start to think about, what if those people die? What if I kill them? What if I die? What am I going to do if I die? And our worry just piles and piles and piles. It forms those links until we've got an enormous chain of worry, which feels huge. It feels really, really unmanageable, and it makes me feel panicky, makes me feel awful. And this is a little bit like, what do they call it at the moment? The Coronacoaster. Our emotions go up and down. So some days we can cope, and that's good, and some days we can't cope, and that's normal. We're all going on this journey of some days being okay and some days not being okay. So when we feel anxiety, it's also reminding us that every emotion we feel in our body. So if we have an emotion, we'll probably feel it in our chest or in our stomach. So anxiety might feel like a knot or a ball. We might notice our heart racing, getting sweaty, breathing, kind of finding it hard to relax, feeling a bit irritable, a bit restless, difficulty sleeping. I know I've been experiencing that with the coronavirus anxiety. Kind of difficulty concentrating, feeling exhausted, and I'm sure you've all felt it where you've gone to the shops for 15 minutes, or maybe you've popped out for a walk for half an hour and you come home and think, oh, I'm exhausted. How am I ever going to get back to real life where I was actually working and had people to look after and meals to cook? So these are all normal symptoms of anxiety. The problem with anxiety is that when we don't know how to cope, it's usually because the worry is ambiguous. So what do we do about an ambiguous worry? So for example, if I had a worry about, an exam, That's pretty clear anxiety. I know what I'm worried about, but also that means that I know how to get out of it. I just need to revise and get through. But when a worry is ambiguous, it's hard to get a grasp on, it's a sense of I'm worried about something so enormous, it makes us feel out of control. And so we become very confused, we can add all sorts of different interpretations to our worry. Other people might have different interpretations of our worry, which makes us feel even more confused. Ambiguous worry is not good. It's a new worry. So we haven't had to deal with this before. We haven't had to deal with, the plague, the Spanish flu, all of these different kinds of things that have meant that we've been locked up and uncertain about an invisible enemy before. So we don't have any coping strategies to fall back on. We haven't had to cope with this as children and been learn from our parents about how to manage lockdown and managing with uncertainty. And it's unpredictable. As a whole, we don't really know what's going to happen. We don't know what life's going to look like in 6 months, 12 months, however long. And that causes a huge amount of anxiety. And I know for people that I work with in my clinical work, that's often the thing that causes the most distress is, what's my life going to look like? What is the world going to look like? Is it ever going to be the same again? And again, that's that chain of anxiety. We're adding and adding and adding. What ifs, what ifs, what ifs. So there are different types of worry, as we briefly covered. There are real worries that need real solutions now, like, the washing up is piling up. Well, I know what the solution is, I'll just go and do it, even though it's rubbish. But we've got ambiguous worries, which we don't know how to deal with. So it talks in here about how to manage those worries, and it's got what we call a worry tree. So I'll hold it up briefly, but hopefully you can download that resource. And the idea is that we go, what am I worrying about? Is this a problem I can do something about right now? So if yes, work out what we need to do, write a list, get that priority straight. Can I do that right now? If yes, get it done. And again, that's like with the washing up, just get it done. But if there's something I can't do right now, so for example, I'm worried about a doctor's appointment next week, then what I have to do is I have to plan what I'm going to do when I'm there, write a list of questions, make sure it's in the diary, and then I need to let it go because it's not useful right now. It's just going to ruin today. And equally, back at the top of the tree, is there something I can do about this problem? No. We need to let that go. We need to focus on something else. That's easily said, and we'll talk about how to practically do that in a minute. So, when we think about worry, there's normal worry. Worry is okay, and it says in here again, it's a spectrum. We've got normal worry. We all worry about things. But then we've got excessive worry, and that's when the worry causes you to feel upset, to feel really terrible, to feel demoralised, to think, what's the point? The kind of worry that makes you go to bed and stay there because you feel like there's nothing else that you can do to cope. And so it's up to us right now in this pandemic to always just pause, take a moment and go, what kind of worry am I having right now? Is this the worry that I can manage, that I can breathe, that helps me solve problems, that helps me see when there's going to be problems and manage those? Or is this the worry that's going to ruin my day, that I don't want, that I don't need right now? And we have to all just stop and notice that. So you have to think about what we can do about worry then. Once we've worked out, is it excessive worry or is it normal worry? We need to think, how do I maintain balance in my life? So what do I need to do today to have balance? I need to go and walk the dog. I need to make sure I have meals. I need to make sure I wash and brush my teeth. I need to make sure that everyone around me is fed and well. And that's it. That's my balance. But you might have other things like getting in touch with people, giving someone a call. You might have doing a hobby like going out in the garden or knitting or yoga or mindfulness. All the things that help you to have balance. Have a hot bath, have a cup of tea, do the online shop so it's going to be delivered tomorrow and you know you don't have to go and pick it up if you can get a delivery slot right now. Whatever it is that you need to cope. And then once we've identified whether it's a real worry or if it's a hypothetical worry, one of these abstract ones that we can't do anything about, we need to think about postponing it. We need to think about leaving it to the time where we can worry about it. So we'll talk about in a minute how to postpone worry, but we'll carry on with how to be kind to ourselves and how to be compassionate to ourselves and do the things that help us to find balance. So we can think about compassion, and I think I've done a video about compassion before because I'm a huge fan of self-compassion. So it's this idea that we often don't speak to ourselves in the way that we speak to other people. We are so self-critical, we egg ourselves on, we tell ourselves off, and usually the aim is because we want the best for ourselves. Absolutely, we need to try very hard, we need to keep going. But we're often not kind to ourselves, and we often would never dare to say the stuff we say to ourselves to our friends. And so self-compassion is pausing and taking a moment to say the things to ourselves that we'd say to a loved one, or that someone kind would say to us, maybe a parent or Snow White, or anybody who we think might be compassionate. So things like, do you know what, you're trying really hard right now and it's a really difficult situation, you're doing okay. Rather than, come on, you've got a list of jobs, why have you done it? I notice this particularly for me when I think about all those stories at the beginning of lockdown of, I'm going to get fit, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to be a better person, I'm going to, learn to do yoga every day, I'm going to learn this hobby and that hobby. And I don't know about you, but for me, my lockdown has been mostly trying to work from home, but working from home is hard, and probably been drinking a little bit too much because it's been sunny and I sit in the garden and have a glass of wine in the evenings, which I wouldn't have done before. It's about being compassionate to myself then. I'm trying my best. I'm not working from home. I am at home in a pandemic trying to work. I'm doing what I can to survive right now. And if I have a couple more glasses of wine in a week, that's okay really, isn't it? If I haven't learnt Spanish in the last 12 weeks, that's okay really, I'm doing my best. And so this is all compassionate stuff. I'm not being a false friend who would say, yeah, Lauren, you're in bed at 4 PM, stay there for the next couple of days. The compassionate friend, the kind friend would go, you've had an hour's nap now, Lauren, do you think you should probably get up and go and cook dinner? Or do you think you should maybe do a bit of exercise because you haven't actually moved off the sofa for the last 5 days? You know, the compassionate friend says things that chiv you on, that strive for your best, but in a kind way. And sometimes we can think about it as if you were to walk into a school because you need to go and learn something, do you want all the teachers in that school to be the critic who tells you off and shakes their finger and tells you you're not trying hard enough? Or do you want every teacher in that school to be the compassionate teacher who says, yeah, I get that it's hard, keep going, you're doing really well? Because I know that I would learn better in the compassionate school. So that's why I think a bit of self-compassion every day is really useful. And another thing is about practicing mindfulness. So again, I think I've done a video on mindfulness before because it's another topic I absolutely love. And it's this idea that when we are worrying, we're often anxious about the future. And when we're depressed, we're often thinking about the past with regrets. Right here, right now, I'm warm enough. I'm not too hungry, I'm not too thirsty. I'm okay right now. Right here and right now, life is okay. I can manage. It's when I think about the future and what's the world going to look like in 6 months, and is my friend's wedding going to go ahead, and those what ifs are what cause me to feel anxious. And so mindfulness is about me taking a moment to listen to a relaxing recording or to do an activity mindfully, like have a nice shower or bath, that help me to just stay in the moment and have a break from my brain. Yes, it doesn't last forever. Of course, we're not going to stay relaxed now for the next 5 days, but I'm going to feel better for 10 minutes and I'm going to have a break. And that's nice. So coming on to the next page in the Wellbeing book, it talks about how to find balance. And it says that balance comes from us having a mixture of pleasure, of achievement, and of connectedness with people. And this is just generally what we need to be happy as human beings. We all need things that give us some pleasure, something that gives us joy, like watching a lovely movie, reading a book we enjoy, having a bath, whatever gives you a sense of happiness, comedy, a podcast, anything at all, just scrolling on Instagram, if that's making you happy, great. Achievement, we all need to do something every day that gives us a sense of achievement. So it might be cleaning the sink, it might be doing a bit of gardening, it might be doing a little bit of a hobby, it might be something really little like a bit of admin, like just checking that you've paid a bill and sorting that out. And we need to have connectedness with people. We are social creatures, us humans. So it might be important to reach out, to start, we're all in a Zoom quizzes right now, although they're a bit dying off in my friendship group because we're all a bit sick of Zoom quizzes. But whatever it is that makes us feel connected to other people is really, really useful. And then they've got an activity menu in this, which is my favourite bit of this booklet, because right now I'm finding it really hard to think about what I can suggest people do to help themselves feel better, and even what I can do to help myself feel better. Whereas this booklet has thought of all sorts of things that we can do in lockdown. So, things like cleaning, kindness, getting a gift for somebody, doing some gardening, trying a new recipe, scheduling your day differently. So having a go where you get up late for a day, having a go where you go to bed late or early for the day. All sorts of things that we can give ourselves to do during lockdown. So I would really recommend that you download the pack just to read this page if you're stuck for ideas for what to do. I know that I'm getting stuck at week 12. So things that we're doing in our household is that we're trying to have themed evenings. So we've got movie night, we've got a quiz night where we might just get the Scrabble out or call a friend to do a little quiz. We're trying to do a hobbies night where I'm attempting to run, but at the moment I'm rubbish at it. Anything at all that you want to have in place, like a themed night or a calendar, I found really very useful to get just some routine and normality to lockdown. Then we come on to worry postponement. So yes, you've got worries. We all have worries right now, absolutely. And some people's worries might feel huge and some people's worries might feel manageable. If you notice that your worry is leaking out into your day and feeling quite huge, one thing we can do to help after you've done your worry tree is worry postponement, worry time. And so what that is that we set a timer and we will say, I'm going to worry at 6 p.m. for 15 minutes. Set my timer or egg timer on your phone and go. Worry, 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 worry. All you want, write it down, whatever you want to do to worry in that time. And once that timer goes off, we're done. We're going to put that worry aside and leave it. And any worry we get before 6 p.m. the next day, we notice we're worrying and we go, right, save that for worry time. And that's all we do. And so it helps us to get some clear time when we're allowed to worry. So we're not denying ourselves any worry. It's normal to worry, as I say, but we're making sure it's not ruining our whole day. And once it's done, then maybe do something relaxing to help you, like go and have a cup of tea, go and do some mindfulness for 10 minutes. Whatever helps you to say, right, worry time is over, now I'm moving on with the rest of my day. Now in the back of this booklet, which is also very useful, is some thought diaries. So we've got challenging our thoughts. And so on this we've got the situation we were in, the emotions and body sensations we were having, the automatic thought, which is usually a worry, and then our compassionate response. So it's got examples on. It's got, I was watching the news for the second hour in a row. I don't know how many of you are guilty like I am of watching too much news. It makes me feel anxious and increasing sensations of panic. So the automatic thought was, this is terrible, so many people could die, what's going to happen to me and my family? And so the compassionate thought that they've answered back with, so imagining that compassionate figure, imagining what we say to a friend, it's understandable that you're worried. It would be unusual not to be worried. What's the best thing that you can do for yourself to feel better right now? Maybe you could watch a comedy instead of the news, or get up and do something else. And there we go. That compassionate voice might have helped just to move on that worry a little bit more. And the other diary sheet it's got is the same thing, but on the bottom it's got here just some kind of prompts if you're struggling with a response. So some final tips for managing this panic, this anxiety during this uncertain time is set a routine. So we might be spending more time doing things that we never normally do, and it's important that we just maintain a regular routine like we were when we were working, out and about, or when we were able to go out. Maintain a regular time for getting up and going to bed. Maintain regular meal times. Maintain a regular diet if you can do. I know, again, I went through a phase of kind of just eating loads of junk because I just felt a bit overwhelmed to cook. I couldn't get a lot of stuff in the shop because it was a bit tough. Now it's a bit easier to shop. I'm just trying my best to go back to a regular diet and routine. Seeing if we can get dressed every morning, which I know is really challenging, but even if you get out of your night pyjamas into some day pyjamas, that's better than nothing. And just giving ourselves structure to our day, doing our best to be physically active and mentally active as and where we can. So in our timetable for the day, we might have doing something online, like researching something new. I've been researching how to take care of my houseplants because I've killed a few, so trying to learn that new skill. Maybe just doing something vigorous like a bit of housework, a bit of gardening, some star jumps, whatever it is to give you that bit of stimulation. Practicing gratitude. What is there right now that I can be grateful for? So just having that connection with joy in the moment. We could be grateful that it was so sunny. It was lovely for a little while. We could be grateful that there's now rain, so I don't have to go out and water the garden every night. We could be grateful for the moment we saw a duck landing in a pond, because they are ridiculous and they don't know how to land and they always seem to trip over. Whatever it is that gives us just a slight sense of gratitude and joy. Trying to notice and limit those worries and those worry triggers. And so if you notice that you get worried when you're on social media, have a day off. If you get noticed that you're worrying when you're watching the news, give it up for a day. It's going to be okay if you do. And remembering that when we want to look for the news, we need to make sure that it's reputable news sources, because I know I've fallen into the trap of seeing something on Facebook and just being in an absolute panic about what's going on. Twitter has really got me panicked. And so I have to make sure that I always rely on reputable news like the World Health Organization or things coming from the government right now. Whether or not you believe what the government is saying, it's a more reputable news source than someone's auntie I saw on Facebook. So choosing for you which news that you think is the most relevant. So I guess the summary is, we're all worried. You might be feeling really, really awfully worried. That's normal, that's okay. And do look after yourself. And if you're really stuck, then I would recommend that if you live in Dorset, you contact Steps to Wellbeing, which you can self-refer to. And if you live in Hampshire, you can contact iTalk. And they are currently offering CBT, obviously remotely, so online. You can do like a computer program, which you work through yourself, or you can go and talk to somebody kind of on Skype or whatever their system they're using is. There are lots of self-help resources, and I would really recommend just using some mindfulness. So I'll put a link in below as well for a routine on a YouTube video called Face COVID, and it's an acronym, FACE, and it's about how to get ourselves to just pause, notice what's going on, calm it down, and then get back on with life again. And it's quite a good little routine, so I'll stick that on there as well. If you've got any questions, then do comment. You can email me. I'm lauren.rooney@avenuetherapies.com. And otherwise, take care, and I'll see you very soon, hopefully.